Okay, now all of our expanding binomials have always had x plus y, and that's how we derived everything, looked at everything, and looked how these things expanded out. But what happens if we've got x minus y to the fourth power? Well, we have to write this as x plus something. We write it like we see it and then put it in the formula as the binomial formula as x plus something and then deal with it from there on out. So we're going to rewrite this as x plus something that will end up being x minus y. Well, that's not too hard to do. We can write this as x plus and then put the negative y in parentheses. So now we've got x plus something, and my something is negative y, and then every time I see a y in the second part of my binomial expansion, I write negative y. And you'll see what I mean in just a second. So we write this out. So we have something times x to the fourth. Okay, and then we got plus, and then we got a number here, times x to the third. And then it would normally be y, but now it's going to be negative y, my second spot, to the first power. Remember, these always add up to be 1. And then plus something, and then x to the second, negative y to the second. X to the third, I'm sorry, x to the first, descending, 3, 2, 1. X powers are descending and the y powers are ascending. This would be negative y to the third, and then plus, and this is going to be just something, negative y to the fourth. And x is going to go 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay? So that's how we would expand this out. And let's wait on our numbers here till we kind of figure out our signs here first. So, and I'm going to kind of write this again with these exponents so you see what happens. So I've got, oops, well, that's okay. So negative y to the first is just negative y. So I'm going to write it like this just for now. And what's a negative y squared? That's just y squared. So I'll write that as y squared. And what's a negative y cubed? Well, that's just negative y cubed. So it's negative y cubed. Because if we raise anything to an odd power, if we raise a negative to an odd power, a negative times a negative is a positive times a negative is a negative. And then finally plus. And then a negative to an even power, a negative times a negative is a positive times a negative is a negative times a positive is a positive. So a negative times a negative is positive times a negative, is a negative times another negative is a positive. So if it's an even number, it becomes positive. So that's going to be y to the fourth. Okay? And now we can fill in our numbers and multiply these out. Well, I better do another step just so you see. You can skip some of these steps. I'm putting a lot of extra steps in just so you see each step. But you can skip some of these a little bit later. So this is going to be something, x to the fourth. And what's a negative times a positive? Negative. Something, x squared, y. And this is just positive because there's no sign there. X squared, y squared. And what's a negative times a positive? A negative x, y to the third. And that's just plus. And there you go. And then we just put our numbers in from Pascal's triangle. We know our n numbers are always 1, so 1 goes there and 1 goes there. And if I look at row 4, I have just 4, 6, 4 in the middle. So the reality is that everything's the same except it just alternates the sign. So I've got positive, positive, negative, positive, negative, positive. So it alternates the signs. And the first term is, if it's going to happen over here with the y, it's just not going to change the first term. So that's what's happening. Okay? And then I guess you could simplify that a little bit more. Just x to the fourth minus 4x squared y plus 6x squared y squared minus 4xy to the third plus y to the fourth. So again, it looks exactly like the x. If we look over here at my example we did a while back, x plus y to the fourth, you see we just have x to the fourth, 4x cubed y, 6x squared y squared, 4x cubed y, and y to the fourth. So it looks exactly the same, except that the signs are alternating. I've got these two negative signs. Everything else is exactly the same. So it goes plus, minus, plus, minus, plus. Okay? So that's what we have to deal with there. So I put some extra steps in. You might want to be able maybe to do some of this up on top or whatever and save yourself some room. But that's the safest way to do it. All right? See, when this exponent makes a sign change, when it's even, it doesn't. When it's odd, it changes the sign. When it's even, it doesn't. Okay?